Well, that moment we dreaded but also expected is finally here. Justice Alito, in an opinion that was leaked, a draft opinion, meaning it could change, but it won't. Speaking for himself and four other crazy right wing justices, Justice Alito has determined that Roe versus Wade should not be the law of the land and that women should not have the guaranteed right to abortion rights, the human rights that come with that, the economic rights that come with that, the bodily autonomy that comes with that, and everything else. Alito wrote essentially that this seemed like that the Supreme Court erred in its opinion, that this right is nowhere in the Constitution. The right has been gunning for this for years, really pretty much since Roe versus Wade passed in 1973. It seems like they will finally get their dream to make sure that millions of women are forced into back alleys and some die of sepsis and all sorts of other awful things happen because they can't accept women as equal members of our society. I thought it would be good to just take a look at the men, and it really mostly is men behind this, because they never get the kind of scrutiny they deserve from our mainstream media. So what you should know about Justice Alito is he was a Third Circuit Court judge, nominated in 2005, I believe, actually, by George W. Bush to join the Supreme Court. But while he was on that circuit court, he dissented from the other justices in saying that part of the Planned Parenthood versus Casey decision that said women had to ask their husband's permission for an abortion, he thought that was good and that shouldn't be overturned because what's a woman really? Can she think on her own? I mean, she should have to talk to her dude. Early indicator of who he was. But another really interesting thing comes up, and they talked about this at his hearings once he was nominated. He was with the Concerned Alumni of Princeton while he was at Princeton. Now, what were the Concerned Alumni of Princeton? Well, a group of guys, white Christian guys like him, that were determined to not allow women into the school. Yep, they wanted to make sure that if women were coming, that there would be many fewer women than men, that coeducation is evil and bad and God hates it or something. Very anti-Jesus-y, I don't know. And they fought the attempt by Princeton to add as many women as possible. They also were against affirmative action. They liked it white there, and they wanted to make sure that at their little eating clubs they wouldn't be forced to see black faces and other faces, and so they fought that too. Once he was put on the Supreme Court, and I should add to you, he was one of the testimonies in his favor was from a judge named Marion Barry Trump, or Trump Barry. Sorry, that sounds familiar. That is correct. That is Donald Trump's sister. Alito joined with pretty much every decision that has overthrown years of precedent. The Heller decision, I believe 2008, creating out of nowhere an individual right to gun ownership, existed nowhere in the Constitution. Warren Burger laughed it out of court when he was a conservative justice, created the Citizens United case, which overturned 100 years of campaign finance law and let corporations throw whatever money they wanted into our system, and Shelby versus Alabama, which of course overturned voting rights so that voter suppression, or at least said that the Supreme Court wasn't going to protect it, so voter suppression could become what it is today. Now, the Citizens United one is particularly important because in January of 2010, Barack Obama stood up and gave his State of the Union. And he made sure to say during that State of the Union that we would all pay the price for that Supreme Court decision because foreign money would find its way into our system. And Alito was just angry. It was a big moment. He shook his head and said no, which was very un-Supreme Court justice-like to sit there and bark back at a president who's giving a speech. The first black president, I'm sure that had nothing to do with it. But we now have lived those years since then with Maria Butina trying to funnel $30 million from Russia, a spy, through the NRA, and we know plenty of it got through to the NRA and made its way into our elections. The Dallas Morning News did a sort of incredible piece on all of Putin's oligarchs, that his friends who moved to the United States when they were young, and so they got American citizenship, and how they were able to use our super PAC system to funnel money to Mitch McConnell, to funnel money to Lindsey Graham, and all these super PACs that supported them. So Alito, of course, as he often is, was wrong. He is right-wing. He's been on the furthest right fringes of the court, so it's no surprise that he would be the one to author this decision. He's in this little clique of him, Gorsuch, and Clarence Thomas that are the three craziest. It doesn't change the fact that today we know he's ready to join four of his colleagues, overturn basic women's rights in this country. And you should know who this guy is and his past of trying to keep women out of Princeton, his past of of not taking women's harassment seriously in some of the cases he looked at. And previous case on abortion rights, where also he thought a woman should have to ask her husband for permission. He's a bad person. He's evil. He's right-wing, and he shouldn't get to make this decision.